millions of dollars a year, players and coaches at the University of Utah making millions of dollars a year to handle these things, to anticipate these things. And unfortunately, on Saturday night, under the lights, it didn't go that way. The University of Arizona coming off a and the assumption, the thing that we have taken for granted is that, oh, it's going to be so difficult to play at Rice-Eccles is true, but there's limitations to it. It's only true to an extent. And that extent is you have to be playing a good game on the field in order for the must to be a factor. In order for all of you who forked out that money, that time, that whatever for your season tickets, in order for that to be a factor, you need some results on the field. And I have been critical of the Utah fan base in the past. I'm not here to do that today because the times when you could be expected to wake up in this game, a Caleb Lohner touchdown, they brought it to within one score. That place was loud. That place was rocking. That place was unbelievable. And then unfortunately, Noah Fafita and his offense came in and they snatched the life and the breath and the soul out of that building with execution, and Brent Brennan with good play calling. And for Utah defensively to not get a timely stop is, again, something we're not overly accustomed to, especially at Rice-Eccles Stadium. We're going to get into the Big 12 by the numbers today, and there's some numbers that are going to make you sick from this game. But you're already feeling sick about this game, so here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to jump off the doom and gloom train. I'm going to back off the criticism. I'm going to be your therapist today who focuses on the glass half full. Tries to get you to pay attention to, hey, everything's going to be all right. Whether you subscribe to the idea that 2004 or 2008 was the best season in Utah football history, doesn't matter. Because you have one of those two teams, one of those two seasons as your number one, probably. The other undefeated year is probably right behind that. Maybe you put 04 or 08 in the third position behind 2021 or 2022, a back-to-back Pac-12 championship year. Neither of those years were perfect. Neither of those years were free of this frustration you're feeling right now. Neither of those years were devoid of this exact moment where you're tuning in to ESPN 700. The voice is different this time. It's not Bill Riley walking you through. It's me. It's Sean O'Connell telling you that even Utah's best football years as a Power 5 school had these moments. These inexplicable, what the hell is wrong with this team? Why does this coaching staff make these decision moments? For you as a fan, you have felt this before, even in Utah's best years, okay? So everyone, pump the brakes a little bit on your sorrows and your worries. I'm not telling you that everything is fine. I'm not telling you that the waters are totally calm, because there's plenty of reasons for you to be sweating right now. But there's also plenty of reasons for optimism. And we're going to focus on those. We're also going to tell you the truth about the things that I think are pretty unacceptable about this whole situation. But that's what Sports Talk Radio is, okay? 877-353-0700. Your feedback is not only welcome, it is encouraged on the Sean O'Connell Show. You might even say it's downright necessary. I want to know how you're feeling because it's going to help me craft the way that I respond to this. But I will tell you one thing, and none of you can argue against it. All right? We all did this. There's this fallacy, and I talked about it a little bit last week, that we head into a college football season thinking we know things, and we don't. And then we get through week one, and we think we know something else, and we still don't know. And week two, we think we know another thing, and guess what? That gets proven wrong in week three. And then in week three, because something got proven wrong, now we make another assumption, and guess what? We were wrong about that. And So it goes throughout the course of the season. That's why the rankings change. That's why the power structure changes. Every game still matters in college football. This game, this loss still matters. Your wiggle room as a Big 12 team is now gone. It is gone. Losing to Arizona at home, your wiggle room this season, your margin for error has disappeared. The Big 12 Conference is going to get one team into the college football playoff. The champion, the automatic qualifier, one team. So if you want to make a college football playoff with this roster, who most of us think is as talented as it gets at the University of Utah, you need to do it this year. You need to do it right now. All right? One team from this conference is going to get in. You know how I can tell you that? Because right now, 2 undefeated teams in the Big 12 Conference are ranked where? 17 and 14.
That makes a lot of sense.
Iowa State and BYU had to climb from obscurity to where they're at now. If they remain undefeated, which they will not, then they'll be in the top 10. And since they're not going to be undefeated at the end of the year, they might not even be undefeated next weekend, the Big 12 finds itself in a logjam. Everybody, Utah, BYU, Iowa State, Kansas State, all these teams, Arizona, are going to be in that back half of the top 25. And when we get to the end of the year, that back half of the top 25 doesn't get invited to the playoff. So your margin for error is gone because of this loss at Rice Eccles, okay? We know that. I also told you from the very beginning, from the preseason, that this game was scary, that this game was scarier than the trip to Stillwater was. Now, I didn't think it was because of the exact reasons that manifested themselves on the field Saturday night, but I told you that this was a scary game, and I don't feel correct. I don't feel vindicated by being correct, all right? It's one of those things I wish I was wrong about. Your margin for error is gone, but here I just need to let you know this. We were dead certain in the preseason that BYU was a terrible football team. We all knew it. Everyone in the Big 12 knew it. Every writer, prognosticator, other coach in the conference all said BYU's not going to be any good. Vegas set their win total at like 5.5. Maybe they can make a bowl game this year. I think Kalani's job is safe if you can make a bowl game this year. And I came on these airwaves and said his job is safe no matter what. Tom Homo understands the growth that has to happen with your roster from an independent schedule, group of 5 level team to a Power 5 team. Well, guess what? BYU's exceeding expectations. In the preseason, we were sure that BYU stunk. Now BYU's the second highest ranked team in this conference. They've been as impressive as anyone else in this conference through 5 weeks, and we were sure they sucked, okay? So we were wrong about that one. In week 1, we decided that everyone else, even some teams who won in week 1, they're not good. Colorado's actually not that good. They had a bunch of trouble with North Dakota State. They're not that good, okay? Texas Tech, terrible. We started making these decisions about who was bad. In week 2, we decided it was absolutely over for the University of Colorado because they barely squeaked by an FCS team in week 1, and then they lost to Nebraska in week 2. Have you been watching Colorado? They still have some of those limitations. They still have some of those issues, but they have the best player in college football on the field all the time because he plays offense and defense for him, and they have, as annoying as he is, a top-flight quarterback. We decided in week 2 Colorado sucked. It was over for them. In week 3, the University of Arizona, the same team that came in to Rice Eccles Stadium and silenced you and made you hurt and probably ruined your weekend, we decided they sucked in week 3 because they got boat raced by Kansas State. And then we reiterated how bad Arizona must suck in week 4 when they were on a bye watching everyone else, and that same Kansas State team went to Provo and got smashed. So we were like, man, this Arizona team is no good because Kansas State is also no good. And then in week 4, we said Kansas State is done. They're terrible. They lost to BYU. Oklahoma State is also terrible because we beat them at their place without our starting quarterback. And then in week 5, everyone's saying, hey, guess what? Utah's awful. We stink. It's over. So we've been wrong 5 times at least just with the Big 12 Conference this year. And I think you're wrong if you're driving around saying this Utah team is never going to accomplish what we hope they will. This Utah team is too flawed to find success. We've been wrong 5 times already. Let's not make it 6. All right? Is Utah in a good spot right now? No, they're not. You need to get injured players, key injured players back. You need Connor O'Toole back in the lineup. You need Corene Reed back in the lineup in the worst way. You need Cam Rising back. As good as the freshman Isaac Wilson has been, Cam's absence affects everybody on this team, and I'm not just talking about players, affects the coaching staff, affects Andy Ludwig's ability to call plays, affects Kyle Whittingham's decision-making process. Cam Rising, you are too dependent on Cam Rising. We should have known this was the case when we came in, that you're over-indexing on your confidence in Cam Rising, and now people are jumping all the way off that bandwagon. If I could show you the group threads, Alonzo, we are completely irrational about this Utah football team right now, especially because we see Cam Rising standing on the sideline in a uniform, game time decision. Again, he's not going to go. Guess what? We all knew he wasn't going to go. If you thought that was a game time decision, you've been lied to. And fool me once, shame on me. Fool me twice. Nope, it's opposite. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me.
That's the one.
If you got fooled the second time, shame on you. All right? You got to look at the calendar. You got to know that Cam Rising is coasting into the bye week to get that hand healthy. And if you think that Cam Rising has missed all but 3.5 quarters of this season because he got a laceration on his finger, you are also up in the night. We are not allowed to talk about injuries and the extent of the injuries because you can lose your credential at the University of Utah. It's a policy that, quite frankly, is tin hat foil, silly, and dumb. But it is a policy that exists. So I'm not going to violate that policy, and I'm not going to tell you what I think I know about Cam Rising's hand, but I'm also going to tell you that if you think that this was a stitches situation that has kept him out for 2 straight games now, you're wrong. So adjust whatever you think about him away from that. This Utah football team has some of the necessary components of a championship team, of a Big 12 championship team. You need to make sure that you fill in those gaps and that by the end of this season, and preferably right after this bye week, you have all of those component pieces of a championship caliber team. The tough thing about a reputation, Alonzo, is that you have to uphold the damn reputation. The hard thing about having something known about you, oh, this is a physical football team. Joel Klatt, who was it last week? Scott Van Pelt last week said, Utah's on the short list of teams I would not want to play. They put you in a blender and they push puree. Do you think that's how Arizona felt leaving Rice-Eccles Stadium on Saturday night?
Absolutely not. I mean, Noah Fifita, an outstanding quarterback, showed you what he's all about and that he's probably the real deal. But that is absolutely not how Arizona took that game at all.
That's your reputation. That's what people expect of you, and that's what people think about you. If you are a player at the University of Utah in the year of our Lord 2024, you have to internalize that identity that is your reputation. If you're Cam Rising, the supposed messiah quarterback of this organization, of this team, you have to internalize and sleep with that expectation. You have to live up to it. if you're a card-carrying member of the Muss and of the season ticket component of the Utah fan base, you had a reputation to uphold on Saturday night. Rice-Eccles Stadium, hardest place to play in the Big 12, hardest place to play in the Western United States, especially at night. Do you think Arizona felt that way when they left Salt Lake City at 3 a.m. or whenever it was they finally got on that plane? No.
Not a chance. No.
The tough thing about a reputation is you have to live up to the reputation, and you got to do it every single day. What's that corny, motivated, like self-motivation kind of thing?
You miss 100% of the shots you don't take, Michael Scott.
It's one of those. It's like rent is due every damn day.
I mean, my go-to is every day is the Super Bowl. It's true, though.
Every day is the Super Bowl?
Every day is the Super Bowl,
Okay.
Sean.
All right.
You got to hit 1,000 every day.
Okay. I like it. You have to live up to the reputation every single day. And look, you as a fan, you can go to the game and you can be loud at kickoff. And then after the second time when your team goes for it on 4th and short, 4th and goal and gets stopped, you could be quiet for the next 2 quarters if you want. And I understand why. But now that reputation that everyone leans on so hard and that everyone embraces, and that, by the way, everyone is going to be gassing up again when Utah goes on a win streak for the next 3 or 4 weeks, you got to live up to it every day. Puts everyone in the blender. You can't get pushed off your spot. You can't. You can't. If you're a member of this Utah defense, always stingy, incredibly difficult to run against, you can't let a backup true freshman running back from the University of Arizona run for 10 yards a carry on you. You cannot.
What was his final number?
It was less than 100. Okay? A kid who, look, I follow the conference very closely. I had not said the name Kedrick Riscano at all before that game. 7 carries, 73 yards.
I mean, definitely more than Ollie Gordon.
Yes. Yes. If your reputation is, hey, when they want to just pound the ball down your throat, this Utah football team will do it, whether you try and stop it or not. You know, they actually did a pretty decent coordinator's corner. Andy Ludwig, that's your offense's reputation. You have to live up to it every single day. Mekhi Bernard had 16 carries for 91 yards. That pace, that's a really nice pace. Mekhi Bernard is the guy that gets to wake up every single day with this Utah football team, look himself in the mirror, and say, I'm doing it right. Mekhi Bernard is your best player this year. Mekhi Bernard is the guy right now that is what all of us think Utah football is. He's that dude. That's Mekhi Bernard. Keep giving him the ball. He was successful when he touched it on Saturday night. And by the way, that almost 100-yard thing, it wasn't skewed by one like 50-yard run. He didn't break a big one this time. His longest run of the night was 13 yards. He was just grinding away. When your reputation is Utah will put you in a blender and hit puree, that is what you need to do. And that's what you need to do when you get down into the red zone and you got a freshman quarterback, and your plan and your thought process is, we're going for this. We're not taking the points. We're establishing a tone. We're making this happen. We're taking this game. This is Rice-Eccles Stadium, blackout game on a Saturday night. We're taking this thing. And you can't not live up to that reputation on 2 what should have been scoring drives and then expect everything's going to work out okay.
By the way, I have to correct something you said. No Coordinator's Corner this week because of the bye.
He'll join us on Coordinator's Corner next week.
Next week it'll be, sources tell me it'll be Morgan Scalley next week.
Oh, really? So Andy's just skipping his turn?
Correct.
Okay. That's too bad. Okay, so it'll be Morgan Scalley again. Look, all of us, when you have a reputation, you got to live up to it every day. When you're notorious for being physical and nasty and game. And Utah did not on several fronts against the University of Arizona. Now, do I think that the sky is falling? Do I think that this team is in serious trouble and is out of the conference race? Absolutely not. This team is going to go and they're going to study this film and they're going to chew on it and stew on it and hate it for 2 weeks of practice. And those practices are absolutely going to suck. And this coaching staff is going to remind itself and it's going to remind its players of that reputation and of the failure to live up to that reputation and defending your home field advantage.
Let me ask you something, Sean, because you played football. You played football up there. So on a Monday after you absolutely just did not have a great game and you go in to watch film, how much does your ass hurt from the chewing that you get while watching film?
Well, hopefully a lot. Because if you don't get it, it means they gave up on you and they just don't think that you're the guy. Like, the only person who's probably not getting chewed is Mekhi Bernard. And I don't know exactly how he graded out. I didn't go back and watch him specifically in the All-22. So maybe there's a couple of reps where he also deserves to be chewed out. And I'm just talking out of my you-know-what. But I imagine that this is it's one of those games where the coaching staff, probably because of the bye week, they want to throw the film away and just say, okay, guys, that was bad. We're going to fix this. Let's move forward. But you can't. You got to watch it. And you have to get the laser pointer out, and you got to be like, this is you cutting off your route early. You know who else? You know who else gets to hold his head high after this game? Dorian Singer.
Dorian had a great game.
Dorian had a really great game.
Even though he was assaulted several times, he had a great game.
I thought Isaac Wilson played hard. There's just limitations right now.
He made a lot of freshman mistakes.
And that's going to be the case. And the nature of the quarterback position is he's hanging his head about some certain things today. And that's fine. But look, we've been wrong 5 weeks in a row about this Big 12 football season. And if you are saying that Utah is done, out of it, not the team we thought they were today, if you're definitively on that boat, you're wrong again, okay? And it's all right to be wrong. That's part of being a sports fan. We said BYU was terrible in the preseason. Clearly they are not. In week 2 and 3, Colorado was a laughingstock. Clearly that's not going to be the case as the season has progressed. Arizona, in week 3, Arizona was the butt of the joke. They're not in that position now. Kansas State, against BYU, we laughed at it. They just beat Oklahoma State. They're back with a win over a ranked opponent. Whether you think Oklahoma State should have been ranked after losing to Utah the way they did, that's your business. I put 2 poll questions out, and then we'll take a break. In hindsight, I know that's always 2020. But do you agree with the aggressive stance of the Utah coaching staff, of the offense, going for it on 4th in those potential scoring situations? Do you agree with it? Or do you take the points in the field goal, and now this game, potentially the complexion changes a little bit? And I think the more important question for you as a Utah football fan today, after a loss, do you still think that Utah is in the driver's seat for the conference championship? Or have you lost hope? At Real OC Sports, that's how you answer on the Twitter poll. You can also just text me, 877-353-0700. We're going to talk with Craig Smith next. We'll jump back into the football conversation after that. Keep the text coming in. There's some good feedback here. I'm going to get to some of these messages. I know it's a tough day, but you've been down this path before, and you've been wrong before. And after losing to San Diego State in 2021 and to BYU, I know that you thought that season was over, and it ended magically. That's still a very strong possibility for the University of Utah, and I'm not just saying it because we're the home of the Utes, all right? We'll get into some of the positives from this game, as hard as they are to find, eventually on the show. It's a bye week for Utah football, and that means we could talk about some other things going on, including basketball right around the corner. Craig Smith joins us next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700. Football season in full swing, both college and pro. College basketball season right around the corner. NBA basketball right around the corner. Today is Utah Media Day. The fall, especially mid to late fall, is a sports fan's delight. I know Alonzo is all in on playoff baseball.
All in.
We've got hockey in town coming next week.
Which is crazy.
A week from
really
tomorrow.
Think about it. It's crazy that hockey's here.
It's going to be amazing.
Not just the Grizzlies. No disrespect to the Grizzlies, but like NHL hockey. Our next guest likes some hockey too.
No, basketball guys don't like hockey. That can't be real.
Well, he's from
that can't be real.
You ask him yourself.
I'm going to let him speak for himself.
Okay.
Craig Smith, Utah men's basketball coach, a guest for the first time on the Sean O'Connell Show. Coach, welcome. How are you?
I'm fantastic. Thanks for having me on.
We appreciate.
Super excited. Alonzo's struggling today. We all know. I mean, the Minnesota Vikings got the best of the slackers yesterday, so that was always I was actually up in the mountains for a couple hours on my side-by-side, and I recorded the game. Plus, when you record it, you can just zoom through it. So I didn't get a text from him, so I kind of figured, the Vikings took care of business.
I got a text from him, Coach, that told me everything I needed to know about the Packers' performance because he said, I want to fight Jordan Love. And I was just like, yep, that's all I really need to know.
I always pull for Jordan, though, because he's a great guy. He was the quarterback at Utah State when I was there for, I think it was my first year. So I can't pull for the Packers, but I always got to pull for him.
I know how that goes, Coach. All right. You know what? Today's a good day to have you on for multiple reasons, but I want to start with this because the sky is falling for Utah football fans today after a loss that, nobody or not a lot of people expected, and there probably is no such thing as an expected loss right now for Utah football fans, but I think you understand where I'm going with this. It's a tough time when you're trying to explain why it happened, and everyone questions the coaching staff, and the coaching staff questions themselves, and players are watching film and saying, I should have done this, I could have done this, and it's part of sports, and we still react to it violently every time it happens. And you have to ride these waves differently in basketball than in football, certainly. But as a coach, you have to learn how to navigate these ups and downs and the ebbs and flows of a season. So coming off a tough loss, what is the right way to handle film, practice, et cetera?
Oh, that's a loaded question. How much time do you have? That's a great question. First of all, you brought up the fan perspective, and it's always hard because your fans can be so amazing. And certainly, for Utah football, I think it's 12 plus years of every game being sold out, which is just incredible. I was an assistant at Nebraska. I think they're going on, I think it's over 50 years, something like that. And that's a huge advantage. It's a huge home field advantage in basketball. Obviously we're going into the Big 12, and it's incredibly difficult to win on the road in any sport. Basketball is really difficult, especially when you have sold out venues or close to that. And so they impact winning in such a great way. And then when you get upset, obviously it hurts. They're passionate about their team. They love their team, and they're all about it. And, with football specifically, and I'm a huge football fan, right? University of Utah. I love the Vikings. I just love watching football. And you have this lead up, right? You have this built-in 1 week, right? There's 7 days between every game all the time. And on a bye week, there's 2 weeks. And you have this build up, this crescendo, and you have the 8:30 at night or 8:15 at night game, and you have the tailgating and everything that goes into game day. It's spectacular. And so, when you lose a tough game like that, it hurts. And you love that. And that's what you want out of a fan base, is a passionate, excited fan base. There's so much that goes into it. It's so hard to win. It don't matter if it's football, basketball, volleyball. The margins at this level are so thin. And you got to be ready to go. And it's amazing how, one or two plays can really, especially in football, a couple 4th and 1s that you don't when you don't get it, and that can be the difference of winning or losing, right? And on the same side, Arizona's saying the same thing. So I've never coached football. I love it. You got to know your team. Did you play well and lose? Did the other team just make that many more plays? A big thing that we talk about within our program is you got to eliminate losing to win. So for us, you got to make your free throws, you got to make your layups, right? You got to really rebound at a high level, both offense rebounding, defense rebounding, allowing the team, our opponents one possession and out or one shot and out. And then you got to really take care of the ball. You got to value the ball. And that means, not turning it over and just giving them opportunities the other way. And so, were you the toughest team on that during that game? We have a phrase, the toughest team always wins. So there's a lot that goes into it. You got to know your team. Obviously, they're playing with a true freshman quarterback. That, I'm sure, is not always the easiest thing to do, right? There's such a big learning curve for any freshman, regardless of position or sport. It's a huge change. And then just I have so much respect for the quarterback position because it's probably the hardest position in all of sports. So there's so much that goes into it. And you just got to know your team. So we're always going to, my philosophy, we're always going to tell the truth, right? And what you accept for us, what you accept in winning, you must accept in losing. So if you're making the same mistakes and you beat a team by 20 points one game, and then all of a sudden you're doing the same thing and you lose by 5 in a game you shouldn't lose, right? That's on you as a coach. That's on me as the head coach. That's on our coaching staff to coach that up and not accept that. And you always got to find a way to win, but it's all about the fundamentals, right? And making sure you're very, very sound in all facets of the game. And so there's so much, when you watch film, I think, like the camera doesn't lie, the film doesn't lie. And that's what we do we watch so much film as a team and then with individual players so they can see, because sometimes as a player, you think you're doing one thing and then you watch it on film and it's like, oh, wow, right? I had no idea, I kind of think I'm a good looking guy, but then I look at a picture of me and reality hits really, really fast. And so we could talk all day on this subject. It's hard. Nobody wants to lose. I guarantee you those guys are out there doing everything they possibly can to win the game. But the margins are really, really thin, and you got to perform every night. And so obviously they'll bounce back in a great way. But it's and you're dealing, for us, you're coaching 18 to 24-year-old men, and you just got to work hard to get everybody on the same page all the time.
Utah head basketball coach Craig Smith is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show. And, Coach, I promise you I didn't bring you on to ask you football questions, so I want you to answer.
I can talk about football all day, Sean. You're in my wheelhouse right now. But I can't talk specifics because I wouldn't know, but it's fun to talk about.
Well, this next question applies to football and to basketball both, and I think it's an interesting one for the Utah football team right now, but also for your squad. What is the correct level of dependence to have on star players on a team, on a roster? Because obviously they're stars for a reason, and obviously you want the ball in the hands of your best guys in football, in basketball, in every sport. We want that to be the case. But you don't want to rely solely on individual talents, and certainly in basketball, you don't want a bunch of hero ball. That's not the style that you like to see your teams play. So what is the correct indexing of, like, this guy is talented, he's good, make sure he's got the ball, the play's drawn up for him? How much is too much, I guess, when you're talking about how much you rely on your best players?
Well, it's always about the team. I saw John Harbaugh, right, the head coach of the Baltimore Ravens, and they've been so steady every year. Like, to beat the Baltimore Ravens, you got to beat them. Very, very rarely do they eliminate losing. Very, very rarely do they beat themselves. I'm not saying it doesn't happen, but in his post-game, I love watching post-game press conferences for coaches, regardless of what sport, especially ones you really respect. And, it always is about the team. It's the team, the team, the team. the best team, and I've been very fortunate as a head coach. We've won at a really high level everywhere we've been. And I think a big part of that nobody ever talks about is when your quote unquote role players are elite in their role and they know exactly what they're good at and bad at. They have great self-awareness, right? I read a book one time. This is getting too deep, but there's 4 types of people. You have conscious competent, unconscious competent, unconscious incompetent, right? And conscious incompetent. And the ones that can really hurt you as a team are the unconscious incompetents. They're not very good, and they don't know why they're not very good, right? The ones that aren't very good, but they know why, they stick to their role. They know exactly what to do, et cetera, et cetera. The conscious competents are good players, and they know exactly why they're good. And they help make superstars really, really good. And so wherever I've been, we've had really, really good role guys that know who they are and what they are. And then at the same time, they allow or help your best players and your high impact players to be those guys. And those guys are talented dudes. And, one of my mentors, he used to always say, special plays for special players. And that's the truth. Like, you can't sit here and have 15 plays for guys that aren't going to impact it. You got to have sets in or actions in for the dudes that can deliver. And you got to have those guys. If you don't have high impact players and guys that are, all conference candidates or shoo-ins to be all that, if they perform at all, and all American candidates, it's going to be really, really difficult to win at the very highest level, right? And that's our goal, right? Is to win the Big 12 championship and get to the NCAA tournament and win when we get there and go deep into that run. And it takes a special player or athlete, person, because all of these guys want that, right? They all want that. But those guys got to perform in the biggest of games, in the biggest of moments, and they have the other team's best defender in basketball. They have the other team's best defender guarding them every single night. They got to show up every day in practice, ready to compete. Those guys can't take days off. And so there's a huge responsibility that goes with doing that. I sat with Andre Miller in one of the boxes for a little while the other day, and Andre spoke to our guys a few different times. And one of the things with Andre, he played 17 years in the NBA. And I always ask our guys, guess how many games he missed in his 17 year NBA career? He missed 3 regular season games. It's unheard of, right? There's guys that miss 3 games in 10 days. And so there's so much that goes into that. You have to have that star power, though. And now whether it's the portal or hopefully, like, we've always been able to develop that as you go through, and there's a process that takes place with that. But you have to be able to have guys. There's a reason in the NBA or in the NFL you have max contract guys, because those guys have proven it and they deliver in the highest pressure of situations. And that's a talent, and that's really, really hard to find.
Coach, what's the number one thing you want to see your team accomplish or get done before November 4th when you officially tip off against Alcorn State? New conference, some fresh faces, a lot of work to be done. What's the number one thing you want to see accomplished?
Well, man, I think just like really finding continuity. I feel like we have really good chemistry. Especially we have 9 new guys in our program, 10 with Caleb Lohner. Caleb hasn't touched the ball with us yet. He's obviously concentrating. 3 catches, 3 touchdowns for Caleb.
If he can have that kind of percentage for you, Coach, that's, hey, man, let's go.
Hey, let's get him the rock, baby. He delivers. We know. But, we have 9 new guys. So, like, what people don't always understand is when you're new to a program, it's a new style of play. There should be connectivity because of the recruiting process with the coaches, but you're trying to develop chemistry with all these other players that you've never played with before. And then what people really don't think about is just the language, meaning, like, we have our own, it's almost like a different language, right? So they have to learn our terminology. What does a blue screen mean? What does right? Like, what does red mean? Just whatever it might be. What does this hand signal mean? There's so many things, right? How do we double the post? What are our 6 different ways we defend the ball screen? So there's so many different things that they have to pick up on. So they really got to overlearn that. But I think the biggest thing is getting everybody on the same page, developing a real sense of continuity and chemistry with one another. And then most importantly, what's our identity? Right. And we want to be a tough, physical team. This is the deepest team we've had since we've been here. It's the most versatile team without a question. And so just putting guys in a lot of different positions to put them in a position to have great success, but also understanding Gator mentality. And Gator, we just gave out the Gator belt. Gator is it's an old football term since we're on football, get after their butts. And it's just an acronym for, diving on the floor for toughness, right? Playing with an edge, having a mentality, tips and deflections, taking charges, getting every rebound in sight, right? All of those kind of things that don't always show up in a stat sheet, but really impact winning. And Lawson Lovering was our first guy to earn that this year. Lawson's really improved. Lawson's a 7-1 center. I thought he had an unbelievable summer. Led our teams in wins. We stat out every single practice. We stat out who wins, who loses, and we talk about that stuff because you got to find a way to win. Some guys like to play and they just go out there and play. Some guys just play to win, and it's incredibly important to find those guys and identify those guys through the recruiting process and when they're with you to do that. So we have a lot to get done. We've been a little bit slower and more methodical than normal. Had a few more team workouts this off season than we typically do. We have 8 hours a week in the summertime, and I think it's really helped us. We're excited as we enter a new era of the Big 12.
Coach, I could pick your brain all day. Unfortunately, we have a clock that we got to keep to. So let's do this often as the season approaches and throughout the season. I know you're just going to get busier and busier, but we really love hearing from you here on the home of the Utes. And anytime you can come on and talk trash to Alonzo, especially about the Packers.
Oh, absolutely. You would make my day by doing that. But I appreciate your time and just dial up John Vu. This is great stuff, and it's a lot of fun. And those are some really good questions. I love it.
That is Craig Smith, Utah head basketball coach, getting ready for a exciting season. Well, we hope will be an exciting season as Utah makes its venture into a very loaded Big 12 basketball conference, and we'll get to some of those specifics next time that we have a chance to get Craig Smith on. So big thanks to Coach for joining us. We're going to take a break. When we come back, got a lot of really interesting feedback on the text line. Scott Mitchell is going to join us in about 10 minutes, but I want to get to some of your texts and some of your tweets at Real OC Sports at 877-353-0700 if you want to weigh in. I put out 2 questions. Do you agree with going for it on those 2 fourth downs in the first quarter, those early scoring drives that didn't end up being scoring drives because you went for it on fourth and you got stopped? Do you agree with it, or should you take the points? And then a more straightforward question, I think, but perhaps a more complicated answer. Are you still confident that Utah's in the driver's seat for a Big 12 championship? We didn't ever think it was going to be an undefeated season. Now that you took a loss to Arizona at home in the manner that you did, have you lost confidence in this team? Let me know what you're thinking. 877-353-0700. Get it all off your chest. It's like the football version of airing of grievances, but on a Monday. Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. It truly is the greatest time of year. You got football, you got basketball coming, you got hockey starting. It's the Sean O'Connell Show, which, of course, is your number one reason for it being a great time of year. Scott Mitchell joins us in about 6 minutes here on ESPN 700. Another reason it's such a great time of year, fantasy, underdog fantasy. This is new to me, Alonzo. I've been hearing Spence Checketts talk about it for years, and I'm very excited to be doing it myself. Underdog fantasy, it's fantasy plays with real money. You're picking on the props. You're deciding on your favorite players, your favorite teams, whatever, if they're going to go higher or lower than certain numbers. Here's a good example for you, all right? Tyler Huntley, our guy Snoop, is expected to be your starter for Miami against Tennessee, right? Are we going higher or lower than Tyler Huntley, 167.5 passing yards? That's the kind of thing you're deciding on. Rushing yards plus passing yards. His total offense, does he go over 205.5 yards? You take real money, you play higher or lower on those numbers. That keeps your skin in the game. It's an exciting way to play fantasy, and Underdog Fantasy, thankfully for me, has the cleanest, the most user-friendly, the easiest app that you can find, because you know how bad I am with technology.
It's true.
You know how bad I screw up on anything that requires more than a simple button push. And they made it so easy for me to get involved with Underdog Fantasy. The same will be true for you. Underdog Fantasy. You can sign up, underdogfantasy.com. Use the promo code OCShow. They'll give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em, plus up to a $1,000 bonus in cash when you deposit. OC Show. That is your promo code. UnderdogFantasy.com. Download the app. It really is so easy. And our guy Snoop, Tyler Huntley, might be the right reason for you to start playing. All right. I said I wanted to get to some of the reactions on our text line to the questions I asked and just to the game itself. Utah loses the first game of the season. They are now 4-1. They've dropped to number 18 in the polls. And folks are mad about going for it twice on fourth down. Interestingly enough, nobody seems to be bothered by the first, let's be aggressive, let's try and score here. It's the second one that really is causing people problems. It's coming away for the second time with 0 points. And I promise you, it's bothering Isaac Wilson and Mekhi Bernard and Kyle Whittingham and Andy Ludwig way more than it's bothering us. All right? Putting together those clock-eating drives and then coming away with nothing, that's a tough thing to swallow. And it's going to be a brutal, brutal film session for everybody, offensive line especially, because that's when you get down into the red zone. And at its best, I get back to that reputation thing. At its best, Utah football, getting down into the red zone, getting down inside the 10 especially, should be able to just say, all right, ball's going here. You can't stop us. Against Arizona? Certainly. Against Arizona?
Well, and the second one, I mean, and you're right. Isaac, even though he's a true freshman, you know that's eating at Isaac. I mean, as a competitor, that would just absolutely be eating at you, because the expectation is down in the red zone, you just got to punch that ball through.
Well, when the green grass appeared in front of him, you can't help but blame Utah fans for being like, if that's somebody else, they're in. The fact that it's the true freshman and the recognition was half a step slower, and that, he doesn't have necessarily the same wiggle or maybe the same athleticism, it's just tough. And I understand a lot of why you're bothered by this. All right? But there's a lot of people who still feel confident.
That's good.
That this Utah team is on its way to a Big 12 championship. And I'm happy to hear that.
I'll be honest, I was expecting a more doom and gloom on the text line than the optimism we've been seeing.
Yeah, it's an equal split. There's plenty of doom and gloom still, but it's an equal split. Also, my favorite text. This is why Utah will never accomplish anything.
I saw that one.
Because it's okay. It's just one loss. Every year we have a pathetic, unexplained loss. That's kind of how college football works for everyone who doesn't win a national championship.
I mean, you do play the game to win or lose.
Obviously.
Right.
You can't get that mad about it, all right? 96-53. I appreciate the feedback, but you can't get that mad about it. Yes, there's always an unexplained loss. Kansas State had one. Arizona, who just beat you, had one.
Arizona State?
Arizona State, with another one of those teams dead wrong about, and I still think we are, even though they did take an unexplained loss, right? You got them. People have them. You think Georgia is not looking at film today and just being like, holy cow, how did that happen to us?
Ole
The
Miss?
University of Georgia. Ole Miss lost to Kentucky. You think Lane Kiffin's having a good day?
Walked in there. You lost to a basketball school.
Anyway. Maybe people are having a hard time sleeping after that game. See this segue? That's professional radio.
Well done.
If you're having trouble sleeping, not just because of the game, but in general, I have a recommendation for you. Farmer and Chemist. Down there in historic Midvale, farmerandchemist.com. And Jeff joins us, as he does every Monday and Tuesday, to talk about what they've got on deck for anyone who's looking to explore the CBD, CBN, the cannabinoid process. I think I said that right. Jeff, welcome back to the show. How are you?
I'm doing well. That was smooth.
All right. Whew. You never know. Sometimes my tongue moves faster than my brain. I was somewhat facetious when I said only a game making it impossible for people to sleep, because a Utah loss never feels good for anyone. But in reality, that is one of the main reasons why people come and they seek out your products.
Absolutely. So you said it, cannabinoids. CBD is one cannabinoid. CBN is another cannabinoid. And we actually have products that put both of those together, and some that actually, in addition to that, have a little bit of THC. And that combination is really amazing for sleep. And it also helps with other related things like anxiety. And so, we have a couple different options to do it. You can do it with a tincture, where you put it on your tongue. You can use gummies. But the nice thing about it as well is you don't become dependent on it like you do with some of the prescription medications. And so it's really safe. It's natural. It works really well. But the key is talk to a pharmacist, find the right combination, find the right product.
Jeff, what if I'm a person who's never tried any of this before, and I'm hearing gummies, I'm hearing tinctures, I'm hearing all these options, but I'm like, I don't know how much I'm supposed to take. I don't know how many milligrams of what is actually good for me, healthy for me, safe for me. What if I'm one of these people who just doesn't have any idea how to approach this scenario as a newcomer?
Oh, that's a great question. You're right. And there is so much misinformation out there, and there's really some bad products in the market. There's hemp oil that doesn't have any therapeutic value. There's products that have really low concentrations of anything that don't work. So you're right. You have to find the right dose. There's a minimum dose that works. There's different products. And so our recommendation is find a product that has been tested, that has high enough quantities to work. But more than anything, talk to a trusted brand and talk to a pharmacist, because, again, it's safe. But you have to find the right dose, the right route. There are some drug interactions, but they're pretty common. They can be addressed. Really low side effects. But talk to somebody, and we're more than happy to come in and spend some time and go through all of that with somebody. So it's hard to walk into another store and like a vape store and find somebody that is trustworthy. So we're all pharmacy trained people at Farmer and Chemist.
And you have a special deal for our ESPN 700 listeners.
Yes, mention ESPN 700, and you can do that either in person in the store or online, and we will discount any purchase by 20%.
Always taking care of our listeners. I'm telling you, if you're like me and you've thought about it, but you're like, I don't know how many milligrams is good. I don't know if I should eat a whole thing of gummies or half a gummy or whatever. That's why you go and you talk to a pharmacist, and Farmer and Chemist has the pharmacist there on site for you to talk to down on historic Main Street in Midvale and at farmerandchemist.com. Jeff, always great hearing from you. Thanks.
Hey, thank you.
We're also going to be giving away another gift card to Farmer and Chemist at the end of today's show based on some topical trivia. All right. Scott Mitchell next. He was calling the game with Bill Riley. I know he has some thoughts. I'm going to ask him the poll questions for today. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on your home of the Utes, ESPN 700. Time to talk with Scott Mitchell, Utah football legend, color analyst on the Utah radio broadcasts, host of the Down and Dirty podcast. He's brought to you by Larry H. Miller Chevrolet Murray. Get Chevy ready today with better than employee pricing and Solitude season passes with every vehicle purchase. Part of our Big 12 at noon, brought to you by Mountain Land Supply, mountainlandsupply.com. Scott Mitchell, welcome back. How are you?
Well, the sun did come up again, and it's a new day, and still stinging from the loss. That was a tough one. It is not one that I think anyone expected. At home, dark mode, homecoming, Hall of Fame weekend, and boy, that was a highlight. But the game certainly was. That was a tough one.
All right, I want to. I put this question out on the Twitter poll as well, but you've played a lot of football. Do you agree with going for it? Going for the score, going for the touchdown on those drives that ended up with no points instead of kicking and taking the points? We know all the circumstances. We know that it's a freshman quarterback. We know that you need to build some confidence, et cetera, et cetera. They were being aggressive, and it was not rewarded. Do you agree with that? And I know that hindsight is always 20/20.
Sure, and Utah's done well on fourth down, and they weren't long distances to go. I mean, there's something you would expect to get and to convert. I mean, they've had a good history of this. If I'm a player, I like that my coach is like, yeah, we want to go for it. You always want to go for it as a player. I think the disconnect, and it's been a disconnect in the red zone for Utah, is that's a precious area. You work your butt off. You've fought so hard. Clearly you could see later in the game how hard it was to get back in the red zone. And so when you get there, you have to score. It has to become life or death. The urgency of everything. I don't care what happens. It's got to be a massively high priority, or you're going to lose. And it's going to come back to bite you if you just constantly go, oh, we'll get them next time. We'll get them next time. There can never be a next time in football. You've got to take care of it right now, or you're going to pay for it dearly down the road. And that sense of urgency and that mindset. I'm not quite sure that the Utes have had it yet this year.
The other question that I know people get a little bit despondent after a loss like this. They do it after every loss for Utah football. Like, we expect them to be undefeated every single season. But are they still in the driver's seat for a conference championship in your mind? Is this still a team that, with what you've seen through now 5 games, we believe is on their way to a Big 12 conference championship in the first year, on their way to a college football playoff?
Well, and I love Isaac Wilson to death, and he's gotten some great experience, but he's really inexperienced. And that was a perfect example last Saturday. The team was flat. It needed a jump start. It needed someone to just step forward and be a leader and say, guys, we got to pick it up right now. Clearly we're off tonight for whatever reason. And you can say, and I could give you a million reasons and they'd be right, but sometimes you're just off. And you got to figure out how to win in those tough situations. So you need your guy in there. Cam Rising is the guy that's led him to 2 conference championships. He knows how to play in tough games, in tough situations, and he's got to be in there. And that's really the bottom line with this. If you expect to get back to a conference championship, is Utah out of it? Oh, heavens no! It's just starting. You've got Iowa State, you've got Colorado, and you have BYU. Those are the only undefeated teams in the conference right now with 2 wins, right? And believe it or not, Arizona only has 1. They haven't had a loss because their K-State game was not a conference game. So Utah plays all of those teams. They play Colorado, they play BYU, and they play Iowa State, 2 of them at home, and all of them in November. So you've got your best opportunity. You've got a bye week going into these last few games of the season when you're going to play these teams that are supposedly the top of the conference right now. And so yes, you control your own destiny. The other part about this is if you're going to lose in a season, this is really a good time of the year to lose. It's a chance for you to kind of get a wake-up call, get a refocus call, and get a call to say, this is where we really are as a team. And you either like it, you accept it, or you go, no, we're going to change this. I remember Tim Tebow when they won national championship in Florida and they lost, and he said, this will never happen again. I will never play this way. This team will never play this way. So being fueled by the sting of a loss early on in the year can oftentimes be the thing you need to really right the ship and really get you dialed in and focused.
When we take a look at this game and the way that, it was flat, why? Was there one thing in particular that you thought, all right, the offensive line is for whatever reason not getting the push that they need, or the defense isn't tackling as well as it should be right now? What was the standout reason for the flatness in Scott Mitchell's mind?
So in my mind, there's fatigue, right? And it comes sometime in the season. We're going to have a game like this. You're going to have a moment like this. But on top of that fatigue can come from winning. You start winning, and it's hard. It's hard to still maintain your edge when you're winning, especially a young quarterback. And I'm not putting this all on Isaac Wilson, but he's just never been through this fatigue. I mean, Utah's been playing football for 2 months now. They went on a road game. They had to travel some distance. It was a really hot game. It was an emotional game. It was a game, that and it takes stuff out of you, and it just does. It just, but you've got to figure out a way to maintain that edge when things are going well and to fight through the fatigue. So a guy like Michael Jordan, he invented drama, right? Tom Brady invented drama. They had that edge. Coach Whittingham has been brilliant about creating the drama because it's always us against the world. We're the underdog. We're we're fighting for respect here. And it's harder to do that when you're on top. And so you really have to, you have to recognize this in the game, because what I saw in the game Saturday night was not a sense of urgency. It almost seemed like a sense of entitlement. It seemed like a sense of, we've arrived, we're clearly the favorite in the conference, and we're at home. And I didn't see that urgency to get those conversions on the fourth down, to score touchdowns in the red zone. I saw guys on defense maybe not quite giving the same effort and energy. And there were some missed tackles in situation. There were some mental errors on some of these runs that caused some, huge gashes. And so you just can't have that if you're going to be a great team. And I chalk it up to fatigue and kind of a complacency with being okay that we've arrived, because I did not see the same energy from this team that I've seen previous to this game.
Scott Mitchell is our guest here on the Sean O'Connell Show, talking about Utah's unfortunate situation, the loss to the University of Arizona at Rice-Eccles Stadium last Saturday. One of the things that always annoys me when I'm watching a Utah football game, especially one that doesn't go the way of the Utes, is when an opposing player, one individual opposing player, seems to have their best night against the Utes. And you're like, what? How? Sicario Davis came into this season as a preseason all-conference pick. He's a highly regarded draft prospect playing corner at the University of Arizona. This game was his best game of the season. It seemed like every ball thrown his way, he was breaking up, showing his range, showing why he's such a physically imposing corner at 6 feet 4 inches tall. And there were a couple times where I, like every other fan, was just like, why are you throwing it at that guy? Don't throw at him right now, because he's been having the game of his life. You played the position. How do you manage it when you're going against a defender, especially a corner, that just seems to be dialed in? That whenever you're attacking him, it's just not going your way. Because you can't just stop throwing his direction, can you?
Well, I mean, you have a lot of weapons, so yes, that is one solution. The officials in the Big 12, early on, it feels like they're allowing physical play to happen between wide receivers and DBs, and they're not calling much, and so there's a lot to get away with, and they're calling it consistent. It's not, hey, they did this against Utah. It was on both sides of the ball, and so when you have that happen, you have to match that physicalness with the other guy, and you just you just can't accept it. You can't just go, man, this guy's got me, and I just lay down and I'm done for the night. You got to match the physicalness, and sometimes some of those balls were knocked away, and I'm like, were those guys? because if you continue to fight back to the ball, and I'm not sure that guys were doing that, it's that fundamental thing of just keep coming back to the ball, and it was almost like they were kind of letting the ball come to them a little bit. And when you're fighting against the guy, you got to be just a little bit more aggressive to go out and get that pass. And I don't know that was happening like that. And what happens is you're going to catch more of them than you're going to have knocked down. But you're also going to, if there is this physicalness happening, you're going to see a little bit more separation that the officials can now say, yes, that is a definitive pass interference. It just felt like some of those receivers, and I believe some of it was pass interference, like clearly. But that there's got to be a little bit more fight, to go get the football. You're a guy, you're a quarterback, and you're throwing it to your guy. And you need to trust that he's going to fight for you and that he's going to go after the football. And, for me, it was like, I'm going to throw the ball to the guy that I think can get open, because Arizona was going a lot of man coverage. And actually, when they tightened it up and went press man, it was actually harder for these Utah wide receivers. So you just, as a quarterback, you go, I got single coverage on all my guys. So who's the guy that I believe the most is going to get open, and that's the guy, man, I'm going to feed the ball to, if because we have to convert these situations, and I got to know that I can trust my guy.
All right, I'm putting Scott Mitchell in charge of bye week practice. What does it look like?
So when you get out of sync, it's all about fundamentals, right? And it's all about really going back to fundamentals. And Coach Whittingham said, we've been at it for a couple of weeks now, and we have to be smart about the bye week. You don't go in and kill everyone, but you really got to go back to some detail and some focus. So much of what's happening right now is, and the reason is the execution on some of these plays in the red zone. You got Caleb Lohner in there. If you're going to throw the ball to him, if that's your plan, and he's your secret weapon, and he is a weapon because of his size, then you got to throw the ball to him in the right spot and in the right situation. And they really need to understand what it is. And it's not running a slant route away from a defender. You got to put the ball up higher than you think is high, because he can jump. And that's where he's gonna be strong with the guy. But you also got to give him time to get set up, like give your low post player a chance, to settle in there and pin the guy behind him and then deliver a good pass. And, if he's not ready for it, then the defense wins. And so it's just little things like that. And just really focusing on the fundamental details of what happens. And part of it could be, what are we trying to do down here? Because if you've got all these tight ends and you just got to say, we can run smash mouth, grind it out, we're gonna score a touchdown from the 7-8 yard line, running the ball 3 or 4 times in a row. I mean, you should be able to do that if you're Utah. You have the personnel groupings to do it. So you need to make that decision and just stick with it and go with it. And who's your load back? And maybe it's Brant Keithy and the Wildcat that ends up being that guy. But so just kind of talk through what is our personnel, what's our best look, because red zone has been a huge issue, and it's a huge issue. You're not going to win a conference championship in the Big 12 if you can't score more than 30 points a game. You're not going to win. So you better figure out how to be much more explosive offensively. And I really believe a healthy Cam Rising brings a lot of that back into the game. And I'm a fan of Isaac Wilson's, but he's just, you're gonna take too many lumps with him this year to expect to win a championship. And lumps are, maturity and leadership and understanding circumstances, and he'll get that, but he's still a little young for that.
Do you think we get Cam back after the bye week?
I think there will be a mass mutiny with all people associated with the University of Utah if Cam Rising is not back. These people are tired of hearing it's a game time decision, and they're all tired of hearing, we'll see how it goes right here. Whatever, buckle up, Buttercup. It is time to go play. and I don't see any reason why he shouldn't be ready. I mean, we're almost 6 weeks from actually when the injury happened, when he'll actually play another game. So he better be ready to play.
That's Scott Mitchell, Utah football legend, color analyst on all Utah radio broadcasts, friend of the program, of course. Thanks, Scott.
You're always welcome. Thank you.
All right, Michelle Bodkin is going to join us. We'll talk about, you guessed it, Utah football, Utah basketball coming up. I want to know if Michelle thinks that you should have gone for it on both of those fourth downs.
I would be intrigued to hear her position too.
We'll ask her next on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's ESPN 700. Greatest time of the year, football season. Even when your favorite team loses, still the greatest time of the year. We'll talk Utes, Arizona with Michelle Bodkin, Utes Insider, here in just a second. Want to remind everybody, this is the time of year you should be playing Underdog Fantasy. Download their very easy-to-use mobile app. Thank goodness it's so easy to use, because I'm not great with the whole technology thing. You can also go to UnderdogFantasy.com, sign up, and use the promo code OCShow. Underdog's actually going to give you a free pick to use on your first cash pick'em, plus up to $1,000 in bonus cash when you make a deposit. Again, OC Show. And what you do, Underdog Fantasy is so easy. It's like playing any other fantasy. You go higher and lower on player stats, all right? You can do it on one player. You can do it on several. You can stack them on top of each other, your picks stacked on top of one another for some Monday Night Football action. I played, they do special offers, right? Tyreek Hill is a special offer right now. Over half a yard of offense, Tyreek Hill. I'm taking the over, okay? They offer these special picks sometimes, so I'm taking the over on that. I went above 200 yards offense, 200.5 total offense for Tyler Huntley, okay? And I went below one touchdown for Calvin Ridley. Half a touchdown for Calvin Ridley.
It's not bad.
All right, putting those together. Not bad, right?
No.
You go higher or lower on player stats. That's how you do it. Must be 18, president of state where Underdog Fantasy operates. Terms do apply. Concerned with your play, call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit npcgambling.org. Higher or lower. Michelle Bodkin joins us here on the Sean O'Connell Show. Michelle, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm having a great time. It's been an interesting day because the text line is lighting up with folks who are either very, very upset with what's going on with Utah football, or they're like, we knew one of these was going to happen, and you just got to get past it. What category do you fall into?
I mean, as media, it's a weird thing, right? At one time, that would have really bothered me. Now it's like to be expected. They can't be perfect all the time. Undefeated seasons are so hard to accomplish. I get that Utah has had a couple of them now, but I mean, in this day and age, it's just getting harder and harder to run the table. The way they lost was disappointing. They are definitely capable of playing better, and they admitted as much. That was a far cry from, I think, what we expect out of them and what they expect out of themselves. But as far as that goes, all you can do is pout and shrug and move on and hope and expect that they will learn from it and get better.
All right. So the philosophy of going for it on fourth down in your own building with a freshman quarterback, they've had some success on fourth downs. Obviously, hindsight weighs into how people think about this. But the first one, it's like, yeah, go for it. I think that's the consensus for everyone else. And then the question and the angst comes in with, well, after you haven't been able to make anything happen in the red zone, do you just take the points? You're now the offensive coordinator. You're the coach making that decision. What do you do?
Yeah, I would agree. I don't mind going for it the first go around. Test it out. See how it goes. See if you can't get it. The second time around, take the points. It's still confidence building for your freshman quarterback. It's getting points in the red zone, which has been a bit of an effort, to say the least, for this team. It hasn't come easy, and part of that is just because you are dealing with, a guy that's still learning the ropes and figuring things out and figuring out how this game works at the collegiate level, and it moves a little bit fast on him at times, and I think we saw that. But I think you probably would have helped him out a lot more if you had just taken the field goal the second go around. I think that's a confidence booster. You miss it the second time, and then it's like, oh my God, what do we do now? The pressure's kind of on. The fans are getting a little restless. I think they missed doing a favor for Isaac Wilson by taking the points the second time that they tried that.
So one of the interesting and difficult things from this game, Utah comes back and they get it to within a score. Nice drive put together. Caleb Lohner from Isaac Wilson. He goes 3 for 3, 3 catches, 3 touchdowns on the year, that's just wild. That's insane. But not as feel good to talk about because this one came in a loss. So you finally build some momentum back. Finally, the crowd is loud. Finally, everyone's involved. It feels like Rice-Eccles Stadium for a night game. And then, unfortunately, the defense is not able to hold and gives up a couple of big plays for a score in the immediate ensuing drive. And that felt like the straw that broke the camel's back in a lot of ways. The clock was already against you at that point, but when Utah can't get the necessary stops defensively, it doesn't feel like Utah football. That's what this defense always does, even when the offense has struggled. I mean, we could go back 2 entire seasons where that was the story of the season. Were you surprised at all that when the crowd finally got involved and it felt like the momentum had swung in Utah's favor, that it was the defense that ended up giving up that score?
I was a little surprised. I mean, that crowd was loud. We were sitting in the press box, and you could see things starting to shake. I mean, the crowd brought it. That was absolutely classic Rice-Eccles Stadium, dark mode, blackout game, whatever you want to call it. Kind of reminded me a lot, actually, of the very first blackout game, 2008 against TCU. Utah hadn't been able to do much of anything in that game, and then, some last-minute heroics. I believe it was a Robert Johnson interception kind of sealed the game for Utah against TCU to keep that unbeaten season alive. You'd watched Teo Johnson get an interception a little bit earlier before that, and I think that's what led to the touchdown, if I'm remembering the game correctly. And so, once again, this crowd is all of a sudden into this game again, and you're like, okay, here we go. We're TCU 2008. This is what we're doing. And to watch the defense give up 2 3rd and 11s, one of which was the touchdown pass, was a little shocking. But, I mean, that was kind of the story of the night. On one hand, you had an offense that did fine between the 20s, but once they got into the 20s, they couldn't make anything happen. They couldn't convert that into points and scores. Defensively, you're sitting and watching, guys that are usually so disciplined and pin their ears back and know where to go and, get pressure on the quarterback, contain the running back, don't lose track of their receivers, and you're just kind of watching this chaos take on the field, and guys not knowing where they needed to be. You could see, them looking to the sideline. What am I supposed to do? And all of a sudden, a guy gets lost, and big plays are made by Arizona. It was not your typical Utah defensive performance. There was a lot of confusion out there. Guys not knowing where they needed to be, missed tackles, bad angles. Just it was a very, very interesting game from that perspective. But yes, I mean, the short answer is yes. I was stunned that they didn't get the big stop that we normally expect them to get when the crowd is so into the game.
Michelle Bodkin, Utes Insider from Ute Zone, brought to you by Metro Elevator. If you live or work in a building with an elevator that does not cooperate, loves to inconvenience you on a regular basis, call 801-946-7003. Metro Elevator, Utah's preferred vertical transportation experts. All right, Michelle, this is a tough question. I don't even know how to phrase it properly, but what is the correct way to handle, to address Cam Rising injury fatigue? The fan base is starting to get very restless about the way that this whole thing has been handled, going all the way back to last year. How can it be resolved successfully?
Please don't hate me, Utah. You know what? I think you're to a point in time where you need to just be a lot more transparent with it, because what is happening right now is your players are getting absolutely beat up by a fan base. And we will use Cam as the prime example. The awful, terrible things that people are saying about him, that he's scamming the university out of money. First of all, not true and very irresponsible to put on the internet. I will just throw that out there right here, right now. But the way you nip that in the bud is you just lay out what's going on. And it saves the fans from being angsty, keeps your guys from getting dragged unnecessarily because people understand and know what's going on. And I think in this day and age, I don't know that there's really that much of an advantage to keeping these things secret. And the crazy thing is, I think there's ways for people to kind of know what's going on anyway. So, it's just nip it in the bud. Don't allow for there to be any room for people to let their imaginations run wild. Unfortunately, NIL's caused this, social media's caused this, but on the other hand, from the other perspective, I think fans need to take a step back and understand it's just a game and it's not that big of a deal and it's not that important and it's not worth making someone seem like a villain when you just don't have any clue what the details are. And I think there needs to be some understanding as well that end of the day, it's kind of not any of your business if they don't want to share it. But if the university, if WIT wants to put a stop to it, the easy thing is to just be transparent about it.
Michelle Bodkin for another minute or two here on the Sean O'Connell Show. I came to a realization that I already had an inkling we were going to come to at some point this year, but the big, that Spider-Man meme where it's just two Spider-Mans pointing at each other?
Yeah.
The Big 12 and the Pac-12, that's what it is. Like, this is a Big 12 conference that with its current membership, everybody can beat everybody. There are 9 teams capable of beating 9 other teams. The top teams in the conference right now that are undefeated, Iowa State and BYU, are very, very capable of beating everyone left on their schedule, or they could lose 3 in a row. Like the cannibalization is an absolute reality now, and I don't know if there's even a question here other than to say I didn't think it was going to be quite this bad. I thought that there would be like some tiers, some categories. There'd be like a top 4, and then there'd be another 4 after that you had to watch out for. But I don't think there's a lot of separation between whoever you decide is best and like number 8.
It certainly appears that way early on. I mean, we'll see what happens. I think a lot of times really good to great teams have a slip up. Again, I think that's just the way that this game has kind of evolved and changed. Undefeated seasons are hard to pull off. They were hard to pull off 15, 16 years ago when Utah last did it. They don't happen a lot for a reason. And it's because I think while in some ways it feels like things are teetering in favor of a certain few, it also kind of feels like there is maybe a little more parity in the sport as well. And to your point, you're right. Anybody can beat anybody on any given Saturday. With that being said, I still think, honestly, Utah's probably the best team in this conference. Did not show on Saturday. And it showed why it's important for the remaining teams that are undefeated. You have to bring it every single weekend, because if you don't, there is someone that's capable. They're maybe not the scariest person on the schedule or the scariest person you'll necessarily face, but it doesn't mean that they don't have the talent to take you out if you're not having a great week and they're absolutely, on top of the world and feel like there's nothing that can stop them. And I think that's what we saw Saturday at Rice-Eccles Stadium with Utah and Arizona. The confidence that the Wildcats came out with was unreal, and they certainly have some dogs on the team that can get it done if they're really feeling themselves and feeling the environment and feeding off of it. Just like Utah is very, very capable of not playing well. And again, they showcased that. They showed that. So it's a matter of, I think this conference is going to end up probably cannibalizing itself. It'll be interesting to see how the remaining unbeaten fare and who potentially they slip up against, or if they maybe don't slip up against someone. I mean, that's entirely a possibility as well. So, but yeah, I think for all the arguing beforehand about Big 12 sucks, Pac-12 sucks, y'all are the same. Y'all are the same. You're the Spider-Man meme, to your point.
Michelle, it's always great hearing from you. Thanks for stopping by.
Not a problem, Sean. Thanks for having me.
Michelle Bodkin at Ute Zone. Utes Insider brought to you by Metro Elevator, 801-946-7003. Have your property or building manager call Metro Elevator, Utah's preferred vertical transportation experts, to handle any elevator issues. All right, we're gonna do a thing in the next segment. We're gonna take a break here. We're gonna take a look at the glass half empty and the glass half full. This game, this season as it stands right now, we're gonna do both. I'm gonna give you both sides of the coin on the Sean O'Connell Show. It's Utah's #1 sports talk, ESPN 700.
Take yourself. I know you're with. Okay. You know. Oh, fuck. There's a couple ways to shoot our football season if you had it personally. Then, see, at first, the conference of the it's just so far away from what that will happen that you think that protest
You found a way to get to 4-1 with your seventh-year senior, all everything starting quarterback playing 3.5 quarters so far over 5 games. A true freshman quarterback coming in. Injuries to your defensive captain, arguably your best pass rusher, a guy who could have been your best pass rusher this year maybe, in Connor O'Toole. A starting corner went out in the first half of the first game. I mean, there's a lot of things that you could say, well, given that circumstance, being 4-1 right now is not all that bad. But on the flip side of that same coin, Alonzo, is you're 5 games into the season, and this team is far from playing its best football. You're supposed to, 3-4 weeks in, you're supposed to be chugging on all cylinders, right?
Well, I mean, I've heard Kyle himself say that you kind of have an idea of who you are, to use an analogy that I've heard you use before, the devil you know and the devil you don't know. About 5-6 games in. It's kind of when you have an idea of what you are.
And that question is still hanging over this team because of the injury to Cam Rising primarily, but because of inconsistency as well. Even with guys who are not injured, even with guys who are out there every single week, there's some inconsistencies. I'm still waiting for the best version of Utah football to show up. And again, that's one of those things where it's like, that's great, because if it shows up, we have nothing to worry about as a fan base. But it's also one of those things where, well, geez, I mean, how long is it going to take for it to show up? Or maybe the fact that it's not here yet, maybe it never shows up. So that would be the glass half empty, and the glass half full is like, you're looking pretty good, even though you haven't really played your best football yet. Another glass half empty, glass half full. The half empty viewpoint is this schedule on paper at the beginning of the year felt a little bit front-loaded. I mean, when I looked at it, I said that Oklahoma State, then Arizona, that's a tough back-to-back. And then the bye week, and then things will get a little bit easier after the bye week. Now, if you look at how it's actually going to play out, your final 4 games of the season are Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, UCF.
And Iowa State, I think, is for real.
They're good.
They're good. Colorado, the verdict is still out.
Look, Colorado is dangerous, whether they're good or not.
But they're dangerous.
They're dangerous.
UCF is dangerous, too.
UCF is one of the best running teams in the country, and you just showed on film, the University of Utah showed on film what can happen when you keep the box honest because your quarterback is elusive and your quarterback is causing problems. A freshman, an unheralded, nobody's ever heard of freshman running back went for 10 yards a carry. The University of Arizona doesn't have a particularly fantastic offensive line outside of the one guy, I think the right tackle, 71.
Yes.
Savaianea.
Yeah.
Like, he's going to be a draft pick. But so you look at this schedule-wise, and you're like, hey, glass half empty? It's actually going to get tougher from here. The bye week comes at a fortuitous time for Utah because you need Cam Rising to get healthy. But the glass half empty approach to this would be Iowa State, BYU, Colorado, UCF, all incredibly dangerous games. And don't sleep on Arizona State either, because they've looked better in some games than we thought they would be. So the glass half full with that same thing is I just named off teams that are right now, a couple of them undefeated, and some of them ranked higher than you. BYU and Iowa State are now ranked higher than you are. That I'm still not like definitively, oh my gosh, they're great teams.
Given how BYU has played the last 2 weeks, and even Jerem Jordan last week on this very show said that he fully expects them to stumble along the way. Is that what's making you kind of look at it that way?
Well, I think every Big 12 team is going to stumble along the way. I think that you're more than likely going to see a 2-loss Big 12 champion because of how deep this conference is. And not deep in the great way, not deep in like the, hey, look, you have Alabama and Georgia and Tennessee and Ole Miss. More like the, hey, you've got like your best team might be the 10th best team in the country, and then your 8th best team is good enough to beat that 10th best team in the country. Like it's a good and bad thing. It's more interesting because you have to watch every game. It's all very unpredictable, but BYU is a great example. Like BYU playing the way they did against Kansas State, getting those short fields and those turnovers and staying on top of the momentum and things like that, they could beat anybody. But I could also see this BYU team with an injury or two or whatever unfortunate circumstance, or they come out flat in a game, look like Houston for a week.
Well, and you're going to be able to ask Riley Nelson that tomorrow because he's joining us tomorrow.
So it's very exciting what's going on with BYU right now because I look at it still. BYU is the rival school for Utah. It makes that game the Holy War gets so much more interesting if both of these teams are good, if both of these are top 25 teams. But also, the men on that coaching staff at BYU are good men. High character, caring, awesome individuals who are in the business for the right reasons. And I want them to be successful, and that's something that we will not be shy about on ESPN 700. Kalani Sitake is a great man. Aaron Roderick is absolutely awesome. Chad Kaha'a is phenomenal human being.
Jay Hill, one of the best in the business.
Jay Hill is awesome and deserves something good to happen after having a terrifying health scare earlier in the year.
Yes.
And every one of you who was wagging your finger and saying, like, it's not long before those guys are out in Provo, knock it off. Tom Holmoe is smarter than that, and this is why, right?
I mean, we've seen it even here. Continuity is what makes the ship go.
Yes. In this case, the continuity at the University of Utah is becoming problematic with the Cam Rising situation. Nobody feels like they owe anyone an explanation or they owe anyone anything at the University of Utah, and that's absolutely true. But when you're 20 years into it as a head coach, you're like, I don't owe you an explanation. And in the modern era of college football, where you're asking boosters especially to pay these players, they feel they're owed an explanation. Right or wrong, the NIL donor feels they deserve an explanation, that they deserve more information than is available. You can decide as a fan if that opinion is right or wrong, but I promise you one thing. Kyle Whittingham ain't moving off his spot. He's staying and saying, I don't have to tell you what's going on injury-wise. That's my policy. That's what I'm sticking to. So all this fatigue in the fan base that extends as high as some of the people that are funding this thing, they might not agree with that. Kyle Whittingham doesn't have to move off it, and he never, ever will. All right, maybe we'll talk about that a little bit more in the next hour. We'll take a quick one here. We'll come back with a little Real Salt Lake discussion. Philip Quinton talking about the upcoming playoffs. Only player on the roster besides Chicho to win an MLS Cup. It wasn't so long ago for him. So is this a roster that could chase it again? Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Checking in on RSL here to start the top of the third hour on the Sean O'Connell Show. 5 points away from matching the all-time club record of points in a season with 57. That was set in 2012. There's 9 points available in these final 3 matches, so will RSL make history for the club? Well, we'll check in with center back, right back, Philip Quinton, who is going to be part of those efforts as they finish out the season before the playoffs. Philip, welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
We're going to get to some RSL stuff in a second, but forgive me. I have to ask you, how many times as you were growing up as an athlete, a football coach or basketball coach came up to you and was just like, dude, will you please focus on this sport instead? 6'5", 6'6", 200+ pounds. That is a football coach's and basketball coach's dream. How many of them tried to talk you out of soccer?
Thankfully, it didn't happen too frequently, but it is the most common question when someone sees me, asks me if I play basketball.
I mean, did you play basketball?
Never at a very high level. I'm a lot better with the feet-eye coordination than hand-eye coordination.
Could you catch a ball? Utah football right now has a guy who played basketball his whole life and is now a tight end who scored 3 touchdowns on 3 catches. If necessary, could you catch a pass?
I think I could hold my own out there. We'll have to see.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, maybe we'll do a little like cross promotion type thing for RSL Utah football or something. Let's talk Claret and Cobalt though. So this is a roster. This is a squad that has had its ups and downs throughout the season, but clinched a playoff spot. And you've been part of an MLS Cup team in the past. Look, you're still young. It's not like you're some grizzled old veteran who knows all the ins and outs of what roster makeup should look like for championship contention. But are there similarities? Is there the same vibe or the same feeling on this RSL squad as that Columbus Crew?
Yeah, I think every team is different, and each team needs different personnel to be successful. But yeah, I think we have a great team here, and I think it's a team that's very hungry, and we've experienced a lot this season, learned a lot, and so I think it's given us a lot of information on who we are as a team going into this final stretch of games and into the playoffs. And I think that sets us up well to handle anything that gets thrown at us in these final few weeks and months of the season.
How does playoff soccer differ from regular season soccer in the MLS?
I think it just comes down to the little details. Everything is magnified. Everyone's a little bit more cagey, and these games are all going to be decided by the finest of margins and 1 or 2 plays on both ends of the field. So I think as you get into this stretch, it's just about trying to fine-tune every little detail and make sure that whatever it takes, whether it's 90 minutes, 100 minutes, extra time, everyone is dialed in the entire time, because that's what it takes to win a game in the playoffs.
Obviously, the MLS season is a grind. It's long. All professional sports seasons are. So when you get to this point, how much is that, those little details, how much of that is making sure that your body's dialed in the right way, making sure that your rest and your nutrition and all that is optimized so that when it comes time to compete, you're at your very best?
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a huge part of it. I think a big component of the MLS season is trying to stay healthy, and teams that are able to stay healthy usually do pretty well in the end. So I think for us individually, 100%, you want to make sure you're at the fittest you can be, the healthiest you can be going into these final weeks. And I think we are right now, so that's really fortunate for us.
All right, so I talked about it as we were coming in. RSL 5 points away from matching the all-time club record. Now, you've already clinched the playoff spot, so there's no necessary need to press and to make sure that record is broken. But how much conversation is there in the locker room about the ability to make club history?
There's a little bit of conversation. I think for this group, our goal is just to go out and get 3 points every single game. And I think there's still a lot on the table for us in the regular season. And so we're trying to go one game at a time and we know that if we take care of business each time we step on the field, then we'll be able to achieve that club history, which is obviously no small feat. But I think the discussion is more around making sure we're locked in for every individual game. And we know that our goals will follow if we take care of one game at a time.
All right, so you got a road trip to San Jose. Points-wise, they're the bottom. They're the worst team in the West. What challenges does this San Jose squad present, though, as you go?
Yeah, one, it's going to be an away game, so there's always a challenge when you're walking onto someone else's field. And I think everyone in the MLS plays to the end of the season, so that's a good team. They obviously beat us when they came here. So I think everyone is excited to have a chance to kind of avenge that loss. And then, like I said, there's still a ton to play for us in the regular season. So we need to make sure that we're ready to go come Saturday for that game, because it will be a good game.
Talk a little RSL with Phil Quitton right now here on ESPN 700. There was a good stretch of time during this season where you had the top goal scorer in your locker room, where Chicho was a guy that everyone was talking about. And then he obviously had to miss some time. Making sure that the attack is in the right place as you head into the final stages of the regular season and then obviously the playoffs. For you individually, what can you do? Because every sport is about scoring as many points as you possibly can. What can you do to make sure that this team gets back to that form where you had some of the top goal scoring and the top attack in all of MLS?
Yeah, I think one thing we always talk about is it starts with our defending. So for us, when we defend well, we attack well. And I think that's what we're trying to get back to, is making sure that we're sure defensively, and that'll create opportunities for the guys up front, because, yeah, as Chicho's demonstrated all season and the guys up front have demonstrated all season, that's a lethal group in front of goal. So for us, we want to make sure that in the back we're solid so that we give those guys all the opportunities they need to go make the magic that they've done all season.
Before I let you go, next time out, it's Minnesota. What is Minnesota as a squad? What should fans know to expect from this Minnesota group?
Yeah, I think it's a solid group. They're the same as every team in the MLS at this stage. They're fighting for every point, and they've been in good form recently. So I think the first game was a good battle at their place, and I think it's going to be the same. It's going to be a tight game. Two really good teams offensively and defensively, and two teams that have everything to play for coming into the final 3 or so games. So it'll be an exciting game, and we're thankful that we can be at home in front of our fans for it.
You want to talk about evenly matched? You go not just this year, a draw, but 2 games against Minnesota going all the way back to May of 23. Also ended 1-1 and 2-2. So maybe some separation in this one, Phil.
We hope so. We'll do our best for sure.
All right. We'll let you get back to things. Appreciate you giving us some time here on ESPN 700 today. Good luck, and we'll chat during the playoffs.
I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
When you're talking about a soccer guy that goes 6'5", 200-plus pounds, I'm actually amazed by his answer to that question. Probably the second best overall athlete in my high school was a dude who exclusively played soccer, would not play anything else. Another guy on a team ended up that Go Jordan High School soccer, all right, class of 2002 Beat Diggers state championship, all right. We had a guy, their captain, my good buddy Clay Christensen, probably the second best athlete in the whole school. Maybe the third best athlete in the whole school, also exclusively played soccer. And then he got a track scholarship to go to Stanford because he was like brilliant and could long jump out of his mind. those guys were constantly pestered by other coaches. Hey, come out and play basketball. Hey, come out and play football. We wanted them to play football. To be coming up in the United States of America or even Canada at that size and not have somebody be like, dude, you're a tight end. What are you doing? That's just how it is.
Well, I mean, personally, if I was good enough to play soccer overseas, that's what I would do because those guys just make stupid money. Stupid money. But if I didn't have a shot per se at the overseas, and I could maybe have a shot as, kind of doing a Caleb Lohner, playing some basketball.
Well, look, the soccer thing is very clearly working out.
It's worked out
for
great.
Philip.
Yeah. He was the 25th overall pick, if I'm not mistaken, in the draft.
But at the end of the day, you just know that he was berated by somebody, and he took the high road and didn't expose anyone.
He didn't want to do it. He was just like, nah.
Okay. As long as we're on the soccer front, a big thing when you talk to people about like, I'm marginally into soccer or I love soccer or whatever, inevitably the conversation goes to, well, do you ever go to the games? Do you ever actually get out there? If you're not the biggest soccer fan and you're, I don't know, willing to entertain the idea of becoming a soccer fan, a trip to Sandy to go to a game live is probably a good idea for you.
100%.
It's a great atmosphere. The supporters of Real Salt Lake are notoriously, it's just like everyone else here. We repress all of our emotions in every other area of our life, and then we let them out in our sporting events, right? Jazz fans, Ute fans, BYU fans, Real Salt Lake fans, they're all loud. They're all crazy. They're all fun. Live versus television. Alonzo, what sport has the biggest disparity of live experience versus television experience?
That's a great question. I think live may be baseball because it doesn't really give it any justice. And then on the TV, soccer and football for me, I think are the move.
So you'd rather watch soccer on TV?
Yes.
And you'd rather watch football on TV?
Correct.
Baseball you like live. Now, is that because of the experience, the ballpark food, all that stuff, or is it because of the baseball itself?
Both, because baseball on TV just seems slow, and then when you watch it live, you're just like, oh, okay, this is exponentially quicker than I thought it was.
Okay.
And the reason I say that with football and with soccer too, there's so many cameras now that experience is the easiest way to put it that way. And then I would put basketball.
That's why I say baseball. I like being out at the park for the sake of being out at the park.
Right.
Like, we went to a couple games together. I love the ball. I don't like watching baseball on TV until it's the playoffs.
Right. Yeah. And I agree with that. Like, but for me though, I've also been super spoiled where I can sit behind a home plate somewhere and watch a game.
Yeah.
Now I know everyone can't do that, but for me, that's a part of it. And basketball, because with basketball, you don't realize how giant some of these dudes are, and then you walk into an arena and you got a guy like Victor Wembanyama. That doesn't make it already is hard to compute that he's 7'4", and then you watch him in person and you're like, that should not be a thing.
And well, just the size, but then the ability to move like that at that size, you're just like, stop, because if you're 7 feet tall plus, you're supposed to be lumbering, right? You're supposed to just be like, and he's not. He's not. He's quick.
He's agile.
He's nimble.
Yeah,
like it's insane. Hockey. Coming in on the text line, 0910-877-353-0700. What's the best live sport and what's the best TV sport?
What about for you?
It's tough because basketball on television, it's totally the comparison of whether you're watching on TV or you have a good seat.
Right.
Basketball, if you have a good seat, is so great in the arena. If you don't have a good seat, it kind of sucks.
Yeah, if you're sitting at the very top of the upper bowl.
Yeah, like my first introduction to live basketball was you're playing Little League Junior Jazz and you get the free tickets. And you're literally the back row of the obstructed view. I'm like, I'd rather watch. This was before high-definition television. This was before flat screens. This was like me on a tube TV begging my parents to go watch the TV in their room so I could see the Knicks and Patrick Ewing instead of watching whatever people were watching downstairs.
As you had to walk to the TV to change the channel.
Exactly. right? There's no guide telling you what's coming next. You have to look at the newspaper for that garbage.
Yeah.
So I think that basketball, if you have a good seat, is great live. But because most of us can't afford great NBA seats,
right?
It's basketball on TV is better. Baseball on TV is more intricate because that's when you get the multiple angles that you don't get at the ballpark. That's when you get, conversation picked up sometimes by the microphones. Baseball is really interesting once you get to the playoffs and you get all those 15 camera angles. At the park, though, it's just wonderful. I bring this up, by the way. This is a question I was wanting to throw out there today because today in history, September 30th, the very first college football game was broadcast. I have it in my notes somewhere. I'm going to find out what year it was. Hang on.
I was about to say in the 1940s, maybe?
I think it was 1939 or something.
Okay.
But it was the history of college football on TV began today.
But today was the very first college football game ever broadcast. Ever.
Yeah.
Who was it? Notre Dame and
That's good. On this day in 1939, Fordham.
Oh.
The Fighting Mike Yams, Fordham, beat Waynesburg 34-7 on television.
Barn burner.
In 1939.
And they probably only had 2 cameras at the most.
If they had 2, it would be remarkable.
Yeah. Well, it's like when you watch those old videos of the Ice Bowl and things like that, and I'm surprised those cameras themselves didn't freeze.
Well, they couldn't freeze because it was people literally breathing on them and using a hand crank to make them go. This is interesting.
Simpler times.
As an avid hockey lover, hockey is way better on TV. I've always felt the opposite.
See, I've only been to 2 hockey games. One time when we were at the first Rose Bowl game, the LA Kings gave us some tickets and we went, and that was really cool. But it was in a suite and everything, so it's not the same. And I've been to a Grizzlies game, so it's kind of it's not the same.
A week from tomorrow, by the way, Utah Hockey Club begins its regular season. It's going to be amazing.
Oh yeah, the atmosphere. There was a preseason game, and it was basically sold out.
Yeah,
that's insane. So the hype is real.
It was difficult to get in as a media member.
Yeah, thus I heard.
You're like, hey, are you really serious about this stuff? Are you actually going to cover Utah hockey, or are you just trying to get a pass?
Yeah, and they didn't let you in.
It's like, come on, guys. I applied for a season credential. Really, though? Are you talking about us enough?
Did you, though? Did you?
You really want to be here? 877-353-0700 at Real OC Sports if you want to weigh in.
I have a question for you.
Okay.
And I know it's your job, so this is why it's probably going to be a biased answer. I don't think watching combat sports in person is very great.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. What?
I've been to 3 prize fights.
Okay.
And they were okay. And then I've been to a couple UFCs and obviously the PFL that was here.
Mm-hmm.
PFL that was here was great. That was a great environment.
It was. It was awesome.
A great environment. However, the Vegas fights I went to, it was It wasn't anything to write. And I had great seats.
Hard disagree.
Shout out to Golden Boy Promotions.
Oh, what a flex that was.
That's...
What a flex. You know how hard it is to get tickets from Golden Boy?
Hard.
Yeah.
Very hard. But even then, I was
if you're asking for them, you better be asking in Spanish.
The text was sent exclusively in Spanish.
That's like I don't care who you know, how you know them. If you're not asking en español, you're not getting the yes.
I'm gonna make that a rule from now on. No, but one of the fights I went to was Triple G, and I forgot who he fought, and it was at the Home Depot Center, and it's one of my favorite venues. I love that venue. It's outside.
Gennady Golovkin for the folks uneducated.
Gennady Golovkin. We were sitting middle of the way where you could see the ring. It was great. You could hear how hard Triple G was hitting people.
That's why it's better live.
So I'll give you that. But overall, it was
The smells and sounds that you do not get when you watch on television are not always relevant in a sport. Like, I mean, in hockey, it's cool that you get like the sound of the hits louder. They echo through the barn.
Right.
The way the boards rattle, the sharpness of the skates on the ice. It's hard for cameras and microphones to pick those things up and for you to listen to a broadcast at the same time.
Right.
In mixed martial arts, I've only been to one good boxing match. The sounds, especially of the impacts and of sometimes the exertion of the takedowns and things like that, I think make a big difference being there live. If you're close enough, I don't want to sound gruesome or anything, but the smell of blood really does add to an atmosphere at a combat sports fight.
No, 100%. I mean, I've heard Joe Rogan say I got blood all over my cue cards here.
Dude, we had a fight in Glasgow, Scotland this past weekend for PFL Europe, which is the feeder league to the PFL global season where you chase $1 million, right? This dude from Albania his nose in the first round got broken to just an unrecognizable mess.
It was the other way.
And he was pouring blood, not dripping blood. He was pouring blood from his nose for 2.5 rounds. There was not an inch of canvas that did not get covered in some way with blood or the smear of blood. His opponent looked like he'd been in some sort of car accident because there was so much blood all over him from the other guy's nose, right?
Covered in the other guy's blood.
Yes. And the smell of that is something you can't get on television.
Right.
Now, that might be off-putting to some people, but this is a world I've lived in a long time, and it's just like, okay, this is really – it's intimate. It's cool.
Did Dan Hardy get any blood on his suit?
No. But you wouldn't be able to tell because he always wears a dark palette suit.
Fair. No, and you're right though. Like the impact, the impact of those things, like in hockey, the boards, even just the slapstick sound, it doesn't compare to what you hear on TV.
Well, look, twice the UFC has come to Salt Lake City with pay-per-views. The third time is this weekend.
Right.
The first two, the main event ended with a head kick knockout.
A brutal one too.
First it was Leon Edwards over Kamaru Usman.
Yeah.
The second one was Justin Gaethje and Dustin Poirier. The sound of that does not translate through a microphone.
No.
It just doesn't. So are you willing to pay the exorbitant price to get in the door to hear just that, to just have that over the television viewing experience? Probably not. Maybe. I don't know. But I will say this. Television production on all sports now has gotten to such a point that it's a harder sell to need to attend that thing live. I think we've talked about this on the show before.
Yeah.
But, like, college football is kind of the last frontier for me of you just can't get that vibe anywhere else.
No, and you can't.
A lot of these pro arenas, it's like a sterile environment. You know, it's not necessarily fan-friendly is the wrong way to say it, but it's just, it doesn't feel personal like college football still does, like college venues still do.
No, because college footballs have their own unique vibe.
Yeah, they do.
In comparison to, I mean, they're all, no disrespect to the NFL and the billionaires, they're all very cookie cutter now. Like, I love SoFi. That's a great venue, great set. I mean, that's one of the unique ones of the new ones. But even Allegiant and SoFi are unique, right? But if you go from Jerry World to any of the newer places, it's all kind of the same.
And by the way, they're all just like churning out new stadiums every 10 years now.
Yeah.
So you don't have these memories at places like you used to.
Like Boone Pickens Stadium, let me tell you where I got my steps in at Boone Pickens Stadium. On the roof of the stadium.
For real?
Because the press box, I wish this was a lie. I walked out of the elevator with our friend Brock Ewart. We're walking out and we're talking, and then we look left, there's nothing there. We look right, oh, this is the way we need to go. And we look out, and it's like, oh, I think we're on the wrong floor because that's the roof. And they're like, no, the press box is this way. You literally walk on the roof to the press box, and you can walk around the entire roof of Boone Pickens Stadium. That would never happen at an NFL stadium.
See, that's cool. That's a cool thing.
Yeah.
College football is super unique in that regard. I mean, I know that the new south end zone
is cool.
The Garf zone at Utah is a massive, massive, massive improvement.
100%.
Over everything that was there before, but it was like it was your mess. Even though it was a mess, it was your mess. Those locker rooms were an absolute disgrace.
And now it's like you have a Ferrari.
But now they're amazing. You know what I mean?
I mean, you're giving the visiting team like a BMW in comparison to what they had.
I mean, the home locker room at Rice-Eccles Stadium used to be an embarrassment. The visiting locker room was smaller than this studio.
Yes, it was not large. Now it's big.
And it smelled bad.
Yeah.
Anyway. TV versus live viewing, 1939 was the first television football broadcast for college football.
Who called that game? Does it say?
It was Al Michaels. He's been around. He's been around that long.
Him
in 1939. You know what? I would love to get the sound of it because I'm so fascinated by the American dialect of those days. Bully, we got Fordham versus Waynesburg here. 34-7. Not a single forward pass was thrown. I love the way that broadcasters used to speak. I also love the Shane Gillis bit on when that accent went away. If you want to watch it, it's hilarious. I don't endorse the bad language for you family-friendly folks out there, but
who was Fordham playing again?
Waynesburg.
Sorry.
Waynesburg, of course. How did you not get that? All right, we got to take a break. Overtime yet again, but that was it was a long time ago. 877-353-0700. Tell me what's the best television sports product and what's the best live in-person sports product. It's the Sean O'Connell Show on ESPN 700. Sean O'Connell Show here. As long as we're talking about live sports versus television sports, did you see the announcement from Smith Entertainment Group about the concessions policies at the Delta Center?
Tell me more, Sean.
This is phenomenal, okay? The Smith Entertainment Group has been given some criticism for pricing in certain situations. Look, the Utah Hockey Club tickets, very expensive, understandably, seizing on the enthusiasm. It's fine. It's how businesses work, whatever. I know a lot of Jazz ticket holders are like, man, this team's not going to be very good, and you want me to pay those prices. And there are people who have strong opinions about whether or not you should subsidize arena projects and stadium projects for billionaires and whatever. But I love what I'm seeing from this announcement in particular. $2 and $3 concession offerings during all Utah Jazz and Utah Hockey Club games at the Delta Center. Bottled water, popcorn, nachos, hot dogs, and Far's ice cream bowls are included in the new fan-friendly concessions menu. $2 and $3 options for the staples.
I'm in.
It's phenomenal.
Yeah.
It's
I'm going to spend $9 on 3 hot dogs.
It's glorious. Hopefully the hot dogs will be 2, and I can get 4 hot dogs for $8. Because here's what happens, all right? All of us do this. We go out to an arena, and you have to make this executive decision over whether or not you're thirsty enough to spend $12.50 on a large soda.
Yeah.
And the answer is no, I'm not that thirsty, okay?
I'm thirsty for beer, but I like beer. So that's the caveat, but I know they're not going to do a beer offering. So I'll take that. I'd rather spend $3 on ice cream and then buy a $12.50 beer.
If you get one of each, you get a bottled water, a popcorn, nachos, a hot dog, and a bowl of ice cream, okay? That's the food pyramid right there. That's all the important food groups for sports. That's $14.
That's a bargain right now.
Dude.
Done.
$14 will get you 1 hot dog at Jerry World.
I don't even, maybe half, dude. Like it's.
Now look, Arthur Blank did this with the Falcons. I went to a game when Weddle was still playing. I went to a game. My younger brother has this goal. He wants to attend a game at all of the NFL stadiums.
It's a cool goal.
So we went and we went down to Mercedes and we did the Atlanta thing.
Which, by the way, phenomenal stadium.
It's a cool stadium.
Yeah.
It really is a cool stadium. Looks great from the outside, good experience on the inside. This was several years ago when Atlanta was just so embarrassingly bad. The place was like half full. But Arthur Blank made the decision to not price gouge people on concessions. And just like this policy from Smith Entertainment Group, it was like $2 drinks and $2 hot dogs. And it worked out in such a way that people, instead of skipping the line and skipping the meal, they actually buy the concessions. So the revenue equals out. That's what will happen in Utah. In the Delta Center, if you feel like you're getting a good deal, that's what every Utahn wants, Alonzo. We all just want to feel like we're getting a good deal. We are all cheap. Misers.
Correct. Well, and not being a Utahn, being an outsider, I've also learned that Utahns have large families. And so you have to be – this is essentially subsidizing that to get you to bring your entire large family to a game.
I mean, if you're already paying the money, or you probably – let's be honest, you probably got hooked up on the tickets. And you probably told your kids on the way to the Delta Center last year or the year before, hey, we're not getting any ice cream.
Actually, my favorite thing that happened baseball game this year is when you told your kids, we are not getting this, we are not getting that, but we will get this. And you're splitting it. That's what's happening.
That's right.
That's exactly what's happening.
I was like, we want cotton candy. No. You got to get real food if you're going to get food. What about Dippin' Dots? Yes, you can get Dippin' yes. They're delicious. I want Dippin' Dots. Yes. All right?
But you are the litmus test.
That's right.
You really are.
You know how many families load themselves up in the Suburban and drive to the Delta Center where they've got their idea on where they're going to park for free. We're going to find the street parking. We're getting there an hour and a half early because the street parking, I know this one spot. It's right across the street from the arena. Okay, it's only legal to park there after 6 p.m., so we're going to get there at 6 exactly.
And no one knows about it.
Nobody knows about it except for me. We're going to park for free. I'm going to save myself $30 that way. And then we're walking over there, and you are not going to ask me for ice cream, and you're not going to ask me for a Dr. Pepper because I'm not getting it for you because it's too expensive, okay? And Smith Entertainment Group knows these people, and it's just like, you know what? Let's throw them a bone. Let's throw that miserly, cheap dad who's a terrible tipper. Let's throw him a bone.
Wait, so, hold up. Stop the car right there before I throw the flag. What's your percentage on tip?
20 plus.
Okay.
I'm a really good tipper. I actually push back on a lot of the stereotypes about our home state in Utah because it's a wonderful place to live and the people here are great.
Right.
But people in Utah are notoriously bad tippers.
Yes.
And I have gone out with enough of my friends and enough groups to know that is and I worked in bars and clubs for long enough when I was a young person to know that is an earned reputation. People here are notoriously terrible tippers.
Yeah.
Like, I know some people who do way too well in the financial realm to not be tipping a lot, and they're bad tippers. It drives me nuts. Anyway, that's not what we're here for.
No. I just wanted to not chime into the stereotype, but I just wanted to put it together.
Okay, so I want to congratulate Smith Entertainment Group.
Great move by them. Great move.
You make moves as a billionaire, and people are going to look at it with their microscope, and they're going to say, oh, well, yeah, you bought this team, but you're being selfish, and you want us to subsidize it with our taxes and things like that. Listen, not every move that this group makes is going to be universally loved and accepted by a fan base, and this is two fan bases that are going to benefit from family-friendly prices on some concessions. You know how hard it's going to be to tell your kid, no, we're not getting popcorn, it's $2?
You'd be a terrorist if you did that.
Far's ice cream is delicious, man.
It's elite ice cream.
Stuff is so good.
It's good. And if you're getting it for $2-3, that's a deal.
Here's what I need to know. Okay? Somebody from Smith Entertainment Group, call me at 877-353-0700. How much is a root beer going to be at the arena? Because I'm buying $3 worth of Far's ice cream, and I want to put that in some root beer and make myself a root beer float.
It'd be funny if you got escorted out for making your own root beer float.
Like, sir, no mixing. All right, we've lowered the prices, but we insist that you do not mix.
Like, I went to Hooters once and I got like all you can eat wings, but they were like, hey, the deal is it's only for you. You cannot share it. We will ask you to leave. So if they do something like that with any of these, that'd be great.
You want to talk about a disastrous mix? Hooters, all you can eat, where people are already going to sit there for as long as they possibly can to get as many wings in as they possibly can, and
Correct.
then you do it at Hooters?
Correct.
Where you're already incentivized to linger? That's not great.
No.
That was a bad marketing plan for them.
It was. But, I mean, I went to one a couple years ago with some folks that I work with on the Hill, and they literally said, don't do that. You cannot share. You cannot share.
They had to politely come over with a big smile, like, hey, we're going to charge you $1 for every extra dipping sauce you order, and also don't share.
More or less, yeah.
Terrible.
Yeah, it's a terrible marketing plan.
All right.
Good on SEG, though. That's a pro move.
$2 and $3 pricing on fan favorite concessions available during all Utah Jazz and Utah Hockey Club games at the Delta Center. Bottled water, popcorn, nachos, hot dogs, and Far's ice cream bowls all apply to the $2 and $3 policy. Love it. It's like the value menu. Used to be $1 menu, now it's a value menu. Love it.
We used to be a proper country, OC. Junior bacon cheeseburger for 99 cents. Frosty for 79 cents.
Don't even get me started on the last time I went to a fast food restaurant and ordered for my family, my small, young family, and my good friends, also small, young family, and $88 later, we were eating trashy fast food. And I was like, what happened to us?
Shut the studio down.
Thanks a lot, Obama.
Yeah, shut the studio down.
All right. We'll wrap things up on the Sean O'Connell Show next. I'm Spence Checketts will come in for a little bit of crosstalk, and I'm going to get on a soapbox for about 5 minutes. You can get me off of it, but I'm going to stand there for at least 5 minutes. All right, that's coming. on ESPN 700. All right, some crosstalk coming, brought to you by Ineos Grenadier. If you want to elevate your drive, demo the all-new Ineos Grenadier today at Warner, 2400 South, 5600 West in West Valley. Browse online at warnerineosgrenadier.com. I'm telling you, even if all you do is you test drive one of these vehicles, they are awesome. Really, really incredible. And if you tell them that OC sent you, they might let you take it out and get off-road a little bit so you can really test out the capabilities. It is overbuilt for the streets, okay? Four-wheel drive, available locking differentials, a really, really great vehicle. Topical trivia, 2 tickets to Billy Joel and Sting, May 23rd at the Delta Center. $25 gift card to Farmer and Chemist. You'll pick that up in-store in Midvale, down on historic Main Street in Midvale. All right, 1939, the first college football game aired on television. Who won that game? 877-353-0700. And I told you I was going to get on a soapbox here real quick. I just want to remind all of you, I understand, I totally get the angst and the worry and the upset about a missed opportunity for Utah football at home at Rice-Eccles. But I do want to say what I said at the beginning of the show. We were wrong 5 weeks in a row about this Big 12 football season. 5 weeks in a row, we were dead wrong about our expectations of the teams in this league. So we can be wrong again by saying that Utah football is in big trouble after the loss to the University of Arizona. The bye is coming at the right time. Things are going to get better. Every year, this team seems to figure it out after we feel like all hope is lost. So pump the brakes on any doom and gloom. I think it's going to be okay, but I do understand all of the upset. The Drive with Spence Checketts is coming up next. Spence Checketts joins me in our studios. Hey, Spence.
It was an excellent Shane Gillis impersonation earlier. I was listening on my way in. And it's funny, right when you launched into it, I'm like, I wonder if he's seen Shane do it.
He's so good.
Yeah.
He's hilarious.
Oh, home run. Time to focus on computers. It's such a great bit.
He has so many really good bits.
I'm really hoping. So have you seen, he has two specials. One's on YouTube, one's on Netflix. Have you seen both of them?
I think I've only seen the Netflix, Beautiful Dogs.
So, yes, Beautiful Dogs. The interesting thing about the YouTube one is he released it about 2 years before Beautiful Dogs.
Okay.
And so he's workshopping the content for Beautiful Dogs, but he gave they're eating the dogs, but he gave an interview after his YouTube blew up, and they said, are you going to release this on a streaming platform? And he said, it's not ready yet. So Beautiful Dogs, 2 years later, is the YouTube special fully baked.
Okay.
So it's pretty cool. The original special is in Austin, and there's a lot of the same, like his dad's a Fox News guy, that whole bit, drinking on Monday because there's football, drinking on Tuesday because there's no football. So I would recommend going to watch the YouTube special and then watching Beautiful Dogs. It's cool to see that process.
Okay, cool. Yeah. He's the funniest guy in the business right now.
Top shelf for sure.
Absolutely hilarious. So, and yeah, by the way, it was correct answer has come in on the text line. Fordham beat Waynesburg, two powerhouses.
For sure.
Didn't talk about it for a long time today, but I thought that was a fun little trivia answer.
It was, yeah.
Also, the best live sports product and the best television sports product for Spence Checketts.
Best television product to me is NFL football, and it's not close.
Okay.
They have the best TV show. It's why Sunday Night Football every year is the highest watched TV show, not sporting event. All year long, more Americans watch Sunday Night Football. So for me, NFL on television for sure. And then it depends. I love playoff basketball when the best basketball players in the world play and care. But regular season NBA right now is not catching a ton of interest, at least around here, because the Jazz aren't going to be great. And so many stars just don't want to come to Salt Lake. So off the top of my head, it's, high caliber playoff basketball with great intensity, or like USC, Utah, here, Rice-Eccles, like a college football game live with a lot on the line. Those would be the two for me.
Yeah, the live, it's really hard to beat those atmospheres.
For sure.
And look, I didn't mean to do any lecturing on the show today, but I think I slid into that a little bit. Like the atmosphere at Rice-Eccles, for many reasons, for the second and third quarters, didn't live up to its reputation.
As quiet as I've ever heard it, Sean. I was there the whole game with my son.
And one of the difficult things about having a reputation, and you know this because it's part of our job, when you got a reputation, you have to live up to it every day.
For sure.
Every time you perform. And Utah, unfortunately, did not do that. I don't think that the coaching staff did their part in that. I think that several pieces of the roster kind of fell short of their goal in living up to that reputation. So that's probably why I was most bothered by the game, but also why I'm most confident about the season moving forward, because the reputation is an earned one for Utah football. And as long as you can right that ship, that is the ship. It's that physical, nasty monster of a team. So we'll see how it plays out.
Yeah, I mean, for the first time, the moment of loudness was a moment of some noise. And we all love the moment of loudness, and it's awesome every time. But it just, I don't know. My son, I used to have season tickets before I got into the business. So growing up, I would take my son to all the games. And of course, you and I, as part of our jobs, go to the home games. And I like sitting in the stands with friends, watching as a fan. And that may have been the most quiet I've heard it in years, Sean. And you got to give them something to cheer for. I understand that. Mm-hmm. There was like a combination of underlying anxiety and ultimately sadness as we're walking out of the stadium and walking home just on the other side of campus. I'm just overhearing conversations, and people are mad. People are angry. I'm sure you're hearing from former players and teammates. I'm getting direct messages and emails from people in the community and phone calls like, what's the deal? And when I say what's the deal, it's regarding Cameron Rising. That's just the thing. I would, and we're going to talk about this today, if you did not read Chris Camerani's piece on Cam that he released, I don't know, a few months ago, he had access to Cam himself. He had access to Cameron's family. And trying to come back from that knee injury was brutal for this young man. So I'm in the same place today with Cam as I was last year, and I feel bad for him. He's hurt. And when he's right, he'll play. Now, I think he's been asked to toe a line of messaging that is causing a lot of consternation in the market. And we'll see how they bounce back. Bye week, and obviously Kalani and his squad made a statement this weekend, so it'll be a fun Monday show.
That's what you're going to be looking forward to as you stay tuned right here on your home of the Utes and Utah's #1 sports talk. The Drive is next. Thanks for listening today. Thanks for everyone who joined us on the show. Thanks to Alonzo for doing an above-average job of producing, as usual.
I do what I can.
The Sean O'Connell Show. We're done. Stay tuned for The Drive on ESPN 700.